Aloha, friends and neighbors. Raleigh Frost here, Kona Astrologer. I'm going to do some work for you here. Hope you enjoy it and it profits you. We're going to cover the sky mirror first, and then I'm going to dig into Pluto a little bit. That's a pun because Pluto deals with all the things underground, secret, Scorpio stuff. Anyway, Pluto is our theme. And before we get there, let's take a look at your sky mirror for the next week. Some important stuff. Let's see, you're still on the new moon at 27 Pisces that happened on the 1st of March 3rd, I think. That new moon, by the way, was right on Chiron, the wounded healer. So March is kind of like the month when you want to help everybody. At least until the next full moon, or the next new moon, which is in the full moons at 11 Virgo trine Saturn. So that was a couple of weeks ago. You kind of organized, aren't you? Next full moon is Saturday on the 31st at 11 degrees of Libra. It squares Saturn. So after that full moon, the end of March, you're going to have trouble getting organized. You had a good month for it. Try to finish up because it'll be difficult to do later. The full moon squares Saturn and opposes Mercury. And Mercury's still retrograde. It's funny, I'm doing things twice. Even I'm back in the middle of February trying to get ahead. So Mercury goes direct April 15th. And after that, you won't have to, do so many communication, transportation things twice. I guess the biggest news might be that at your end of next week, Mars conjuncts Saturn. This is a big thing. Now, these are the two bad guys of the zodiac. Mars is across a matter over the circle of spirit. Saturn's across a matter over the crescent of flesh. These two guys are notorious for putting money before people. And when they get together, things can get mean. Yes. And the judge could become angry. And I think the main thing is Mars is heat. Saturn's ice. And Mars on Saturn means heat melts ice. Yes. Here's the way they look on the sky mirror. Mars going from 3 to 9 Capricorn. Saturn sitting there at 9 Capricorn. Whew. The nice thing is, might soften Mars up a little bit, because Venus is there at the end of next week, trining Mars. So the goddess of love and sex, Juliet, might mellow Mars out a little bit, but, and conjuncting Saturn might discipline Mars. Of course, Mars is the military, too. The biggest employer in the United States is? That's a Franklin out there in my yard, trumpeting. There are 3 biggest employers in the world. The first one is the Department of Defense. Yes, your military is the largest employer. And then the Chinese military, they got a lot of people, second. The third largest employer is Walmart. But look out, why are we employing all these Martians to make war and kill people and blow things up? There's something crazy going on here. Maybe we can downgrade this Martian stuff a little bit at the end of next week. What's it look like day by day? Well, I got the pattern here. The sun has gone into Aries. I thought, uh-oh. On the last show, I should have told you about when the sun hit the equinox. Remember the pyramids, obelisks, they're all built to tell people those few minutes when the sun is at 0 Aries is a wonderful time to talk with Father and try to get some magic done. But I blew it and I didn't tell you when. Sorry. Anyway, 3 to 13 degrees of Aries. So the sun is going to square that Saturn-Mars at the end of next week for you, which bodes ill for this conjunction. Anyway, let's go around the wheel and do it day by day for you, okay? We're going to run the moon here around the edge. It takes a month to go all the way around. And as it goes through here, it makes angles, trines and squares, letting go and holding on, trines and squares. And that's the way the world feels. Friday, the 23rd of March, starts off here with the middle of the day before lunch with a nice sextile to Uranus. There's some brotherhood, there's some high-tech stuff going on. Your electronics and electricity is working good. And look at there, there's Friday night, Venus. Venus, that sexy thing, and it's on Venus's day. Freya is Friday. And so a lot of brotherhood in the middle of the day, a lot of lovingness at the end of the day, Friday, while the moon finishes the last of Gemini. On Saturday, the 24th, changes altogether. The moon's in Cancer. Oh boy, look at all the red. I put the squares and the oppositions are in red, if you haven't noticed. Blue is sextiles and trines. Those are the easy parts. But here Saturday morning, not so hot. There's a square to the sun and an opposition to Mars, and everybody's angry and ticked off, and there's going to be some fights and problems and then frustration as the sun hits, as the moon opposes Saturn. And eek, this is not a happy situation at all on Saturday. You're stuck. Not enough time, not enough money. Uh-oh. You got a little inspiration here. It's really early Sunday morning, good for church. You know, good trine to Neptune. But there's a square to Mercury going on. It's hard to talk and walk and get around. So don't talk. Just go and hum a tune for the Great Spirit Sunday morning on the 25th. In the middle of the day, Sunday, we've got a Pluto problem. Eek, a bug. Remember I used to use the big old Tyrannosaurus Rex as a symbol for Pluto. I don't do that because we all discovered that those horrible scaly dinosaurs were covered in feathers. Ha, 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 ha. They weren't horrible reptiles. Maybe they were the birds. And what that bird out there in my yard that just did that for you is really a miniature Tyrannosaurus, that Franklin. So anyway, Pluto, we're going to have some fun with Pluto a little later. But on Sunday morning, it's little Ika bug. And I have to say, this is not a drill. Sunday morning. In the afternoon, we get a trine to Jupiter. And, oh, truth and wisdom, it was a drill. No, it was a mistake. No, there's a square to Uranus Sunday night. Electronics aren't working very well. Electrical things. Lack of brotherhood. Feeling of jitteriness and shakiness. Continues through Monday. No rest here Monday morning. Look at that. Here, but before lunch, there's a square to Venus. And can't get no satisfaction Monday morning. Nope. Hope you got yours Friday night on the 23rd. So, there is a nice trine to the sun. It's after lunch on Monday. And you kind of get your head straight and projects start coming along that could work very well. We can even talk it over late Monday night, here around midnight, is a trine to Mercury. Of course, Mercury's still retrograde. Tuesday, the 27th, the moon's in Leo still. And you got your project and you can continue. And here late Tuesday night, here's a trine to Uranus. The technical stuff is going well too. On Wednesday, the 28th, the moon shifts into Virgo and feels a lot better. Here's a trine to Mars and a trine to Venus, and this is really social and romantic. And here's Romeo and Juliet, and they're going around holding hands, and it feels pretty good. There's a trine to Saturn after dinner, Maybe we should make this a contract. Ha 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 ha. Not a bad time for a good romantic crime contract. Moon in Virgo. On Thursday morning, we got that opposition to Neptune. Here's confusion and delusion and bad smells, and the music's too loud, and don't do alcohol. Hey, I got friends that send me stuff like cartoons, and here's one here. Come clean and do be the right thing. Alcohol numbs your brain, pot doesn't. This is another one. This is really funny. This came from Stephen Purcell. Take a moment. Republicans put Americans' fate in the hands of a wealthy TV personality with a big ego and zero political experience. And she said, it's simply appalling. Then he says, I hear Oprah may run in 2020. She'd make a great president. Oh, ye hypocrites. Well, there's a lot of that around these days, isn't there? Thursday morning, on the 29th, confusion and delusion. Movie stars? Well, how about Ronald Reagan? How about Arnold Schwarzenegger? I mean, who are you voting for? You got to get serious about this democracy, or are we going to lose it? Here's nice trine to Pluto, just about dinner time after dinner. And there's discovery going on. Sherlock Holmes is a good Pluto. Here's a good part of the FBI. And there's a sextile to Jupiter late. It's 9-10 o'clock at night. Aha, now I see it clear. So Thursday night you should do your research, look for some enlightenment, huh? Friday the moon's still in Virgo till you get past breakfast. Then it shifts into Libra. And another full change. It's kind of like last Saturday, huh? When we're going into it Friday afternoon here. Moon in Libra. Here's the square to Mars. It's around dinner time. Everybody's ticked off, anxious, impatient. Ask yourself what you're protecting. Yes. Now, this leads you right into the full moon. Saturn pops up here around 10, 11, maybe midnight even. The square to Saturn. You got stuck. And this is not fun. No. There's a full moon going on here Saturday morning. You're going to feel that Friday night. Makes Friday night not such a hot time to go exploring or go out to have fun. Because full moons doubles the accident rate. And you'll see it Friday night and Saturday morning. And here's Mars and Saturn having a problem. So, word to the wise. Stay home Friday night. Stay home Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon and evening, here's a square to Pluto. We're going to have sirens again. A little feeling of panickiness. This is not a drill. A nuke's going to hit in 10 minutes, lie flat on the floor. Pluto can be a problem. And unless you got common sense, it's too easy to panic and start running around. This is your reptile brain, the little brain stem and the spinal cord. It's got all those same instincts the reptiles do, flight or fight. So more on Pluto coming up. But Saturday night, not good for Pluto. Moon squaring Pluto. Goes through Saturday or Sunday morning, which is April 1st. Is that April Fool's Day? This is not a drill. Well, the moon's opposing Uranus. You won't like your cell phone much. And there could be more bad news there. Some of it might even be false. And you won't know until later. The moon shifts into Scorpio after lunch on Sunday, April 1st. And it all becomes more sane. Yeah, and here, late Sunday night, early Monday morning, the 2nd, there's a sextile to Mars and to Saturn. And your disciplined energy could win through here. What, we got a standing army that's the biggest the world's ever seen? What's going on? And we're paying them professional stuff. We're not drafting anymore. These are volunteers. Volunteers are dangerous. Rah, rah, R.A. we used to call them when I was in the Army. Regular Army brats. Make a hero out of them? What are they there for? An easy job? A chance to hurt somebody or blow something up? That's not romantic. I'm sorry. I don't like this all business our country's doing with the military. Sorry, but I'm going to tell the truth. And speaking of bugs, here's a quickie on John the Baptist, whom I always had great respect for. And John, of course, was born a year before Jesus was. They say on the same day. So he had a chart kind of like Jesus, just a year before Jesus, huh? Yeah. Said he was akin to Jesus, a cousin or something. Anyway, here's interesting fact about John. He lived on insects. He lived on locusts. He lived in a cave near the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea, by the way, it's got 10 times more salt in it than our regular ocean. It's 30% salt and all kinds of different salts. So if you get into that, you'll just float like a cork. So John lived in a cave near the Dead Sea. It said that he lived on locusts. How could he live on locusts and a little bit of honey? Well, there was a young couple some years ago studying religion in an Israeli college or university, decided to do research. And they went all over the world looking to see who was eating locusts, grasshoppers. I mean, you can get chocolate grasshoppers in a store, but anyway, they did a lot of good research. They found one tribe in Africa that had a very fine netting. They would run through this long net when the grasshoppers were out, and they could get enough grasshoppers to make a decent meal for a few people. But nobody in the world really learned how to do that. So it's not a source of food that people made good on. But the graduate students from Israel did good research, and they covered the world, and they got discouraged, and they said, nobody can get enough locusts to harvest enough at a time to really make a difference. And they were walking along the Dead Sea after they had given up on their research, and they looked down at their feet, and what did they see? What they saw was dried, delicious locusts, dried out and salted, lying in the sand. What happened? Well, here's the story. Turns out locusts come up in these areas, every 3 or 7 years, and you get these, they talk about the plagues of the locusts come up, and there's millions and millions of them, and they eat all your crops. And they only pop up every 7 years. Now, it turns out that the Dead Sea is flat. And so these great clouds of locusts would fly around. They go over the Dead Sea, and it looked like a mirror to them, and they'd see the clouds reflected down here, and they got confused, and they flew right into the Dead Sea and drowned. All these locusts, millions of them. What happens? The Dead Sea has a small tide. It slowly salts them. As they get up towards the shore, it knocks off the heads and the wings and the legs, and it deposits up on the shore what we used to call flotsam and jetsam. These lines of debris you see around the ocean sometimes. Only in this case, it wasn't debris. It's the bodies of all these locusts, nicely dried out, all the nasty parts taken off and salted and dried in the sun. So all John had to do was walk along the beach and collect them in his baskets and stored them in his cave. Now these things are dried out and salted. They will last until maybe 7 years, until the next big locust harvest came. And with a little bit of honey, which also stores and won't spoil, John was set. He did eat locust and lived on locust. Turns out locust is a perfect food. Perfect protein, carbohydrates, balanced minerals and vitamins. Yes, you can live on locust. Really you can. And that's the truth about how John did. Okay, remember this? This is the curves on Uranus. The red one are the ones where the lunations don't like Uranus. And humanity in general says, no, screw brotherhood. The blue is when the lunations are in harmony with Uranus. There's wonderful brotherhood. Now, proving out these curves, you got to know your history a little bit, but I'm just going to point out to you, old hippies like me, that this nasty isolation curve, the further it gets down towards the bottom, the stronger it is. And isolationists came in 64, 65, and then left. Those are horrible years, Nixon and all that stuff. And then look at this. Here, yeah, 69, 68. The brotherhood curve came down. Here's Woodstock. So here you see the two side by side, the early mid-60s and the late 60s. What a difference, huh? Now it turns out this curve repeats itself every 84 years. You're going to see where we are right now. I made some notes. Here you see where the brotherhood curve has gone off, and it's not very strong. And the isolationist got strong. That's why build a wall, build a wall. You know, it's peaked out here 2016 and got elected a nutcase, excuse me. And still strong 2018 and 2020. Isolationism. You know, this is tough in global warming as people get poor and poor countries look to the rich ones and the rich ones close their door. You know, build a wall. Tell you the truth, when I saw what these curves were about, I was astounded. And I didn't realize till later when I extended the curve into modern times that it repeats every 84 years is the cycle of Uranus. So I looked at Neptune. Neptune was all over. I couldn't make much out of it. I looked at Pluto to see if it had some highs and lows, and that's what these shaded daggers are here. This is when Pluto gets really strong. See, the closer it is to the axis down here, the stronger it is. What's Pluto? Well, Pluto is panicky stuff. I said, what kind of things could be Pluto? This was some years ago. Well, it could be financial things, crashing of the market. Could be terrorist stuff. Oh, yeah. Flu epidemics. All Pluto stuff. So I begin to look more closely at where we're at now. And the isolation curve came down. Sure enough. We're in isolation. But what's this right here? Here is a Pluto dagger. It's coming down and panicking people. And Pluto is not doing so hot here. What you get is, eek, a bug. You get, this is not a drill. So I went a little further and I said, during this panicky period, you know, which runs from, you know, 2018 to 2020, there's a couple of times where we have a serious thing. One of them is July 12th. There's a new moon at 21 Cancer, opposes Pluto, and I figure this period here is going to be pretty panicky, and it's July 2018. So I looked further. Turns out the technique I use with astrocartography and lunations, which I stole from the ancient Chinese, predicted this is not a drill thing, very nicely with the 3/4 moon, January 8th. And on January 13th, we had, this is not a drill, a nuke will hit in 10 minutes, lay flat. And what did it look like on the charts? Well, here was the sun and Pluto. That's the way the computer draws Pluto. So, and here it was right up on the midheaven, you know, 18, 19 degrees. Yeah. Here was Uranus rising, your cell phones ringing. The moon over here was squaring it. And this predicted this is not a drill very nicely. Next I looked at the false alarm itself. And here was a similar, well, here's Mars and Jupiter. Somebody was out to protect us and ring the bell, but here's Pluto, see, again. Pluto sextile the midheaven, and somebody thought this was a real thing. And Pluto again, huh? Eek, a bug, turned into this is not a drill. Okay, where could the panicky be? Well, this is the astrocartography for the middle of July 2018, new moon that opposes Pluto and puts the world on an eek, a Pluto, this is not a drill trip. So I've marked some locations for you. Check this out. Where is it? Where is it? Well, here's the Pluto, on the ascendant, and the sun and moon in the descendant, and you can see where it's going. Yeah. There's some very sensitive places. Here's San Diego. Here's Hoover Dam, Salt Lake. So this is a panic place that needs to be guarded, okay, for this month of mid-July to mid-August 2018. Here's another one. This one is off in the Orient. Here's the line of Pluto and the new moon. Look at that, it's going right up through Tokyo. I don't know what this is. More nuke problems? Hope not. And down here, the line goes through this. This could be volcanoes, which are Pluto things. Huh? I'd rather have a volcano going off than another nuclear problem for poor Japan. Finally, take a look at the Near East. Here's the line. Now it goes right through here, which is a very sensitive place. Been a lot of trouble here before because a lot of shipping goes right through here and it's easy to do things, huh? But the line also goes right up through another very sensitive place, doesn't it? Panic. What, this Jerusalem? Oh boy, up through Turkey, all the way through here. So there's your panicky places. It's possible to use Pluto in a positive way, like the farmers use cobras to get the rats. There might be something good here in the way of investigations. We'll find out. Now, Leo has put the police wanted posters just before my show on Thursday. Eek, a bug. I don't like that much, guys.